After researching the country you're going to, it all depends on what the company wants to do. I think it also depends on several factors, right? Number one, speed to market. How fast does this company actually wants to go into this market? Acquiring an existing company can provide like an immediate market access, right? This is after you've done your due diligence and every other thing.
Hey, welcome to the FinTech Frontlines by Cora. This podcast is a collection of timeless ideas on how to build, launch, and operate a FinTech in Africa from the most experienced minds in African FinTech. In this episode, Gerald and Bruno break down whether you should build a new product from scratch or acquire an existing company when trying to expand. We talk about how to know which strategy best fits your business.
I always liked to be very realistic with these things, right? There are not very many companies today that can afford to acquire another company as a way to expand.
Yeah.
And maybe there are some verticals that actually allow for it. I know that in the past I've been involved in trying to do that, right? And when you look at the companies that you're trying to acquire versus, so there's a valuation versus the value that you're going to get from getting into that new market. Many times it doesn't, like there's no alignment there. I don't want to give specific examples, but say you're a company that's in Nigeria and you're making, let's call it $10 million a year. If you go to Ghana, you cannot expect to make $10 million a year anytime soon, if ever.
Of course.
Right? So you then go there and you try to acquire a company and they say valuation is 2 million.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And right off the bat, that is maybe 5x or 4x the amount that it will cost you to build out a team in Ghana.
Right.
That valuation has been set because they're saying, oh, we have X number of customers that you can like essentially buy. We have X amount in revenue that you're taking over, in recurring revenue that you're taking over. But those things, it's very difficult to ascertain the value of it. Right?
Right.
So I remember so let me use TowerStack for instance. What we do today, I'm sure that there are other companies across the world that's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But the amount of time we've done it for and the amount of traction that we've seen has given us so we've built some muscle. Now, if we wanted to go to another company, we know what levers to pull. We have an idea of what works today. There's no guarantees that those things will work 100%. Like if you take a current system from here to there, but there's at least a baseline.
Right.
And so it makes sense for us to try and learn, sort of do what's called a soft entry or soft launch, right? And see if it doesn't work, you come back out. If you've gone to acquire another company, there's not a lot of going back that you can do, right?
Mm-hmm. I get that. Gerald, what do you have to say about this, right? I know that in some countries, to get these licenses, in short, some countries would actually prefer for you to get a license before you start operating, and sometimes it seems like a better idea to buy a small company there who already has this license to start operating in that country, especially if you see that you have a market size or a market that is ready to take up your products in this market. Gerald, what do you think?
Yeah, so it all boils down to, there are a number of factors. It sounds good to take the easy route, which is not easy, but the less stressful route, which is find a company that offers something that you want, going through the whole DD process, financial negotiations, all of that, right? But then again, it requires that you have, like Tayo mentioned, you have the liquidity for that. That is one. And how strong is the value proposition for that particular user behind that company. For me, the easiest route to always go through some of this, especially when you're thinking about expansion, and this is coming from the point of view of, let's say, for example, a company that cannot afford to. How many companies can actually buy another company right now in the continent? So coming from that point of view, I would say it's always a B2B kind of approach. So you're identifying partners. I mean, before you think about expansion, the first thing you should think about is use case. So what is the use case? You have a bouquet of services, or you have a bouquet of products. Obviously, you can't launch all of those products at once. It might even require you to launch a specific product for that market. Right? So when you're thinking about that, you're thinking about who is an ideal customer for this product. Right? Is there anyone I can launch with? Right? Is there a way we can have a partnership that sort of like covers even these like licenses, and maybe we're offering a core part. So what is required, right? It's like, so maybe we're offering the infrastructure to help process or something like that, like in Kora's use case, right? Like, for example, I would want to think that if Kora is expanding to Uganda, for example, since what you do is processing payments, the first thing would not be, because that's a very big, acquiring licenses, acquiring companies, it's a very big investment. I would want to think that you would want to, get a feel of the market. Are you building what customers actually want? Have you identified the right products? Are you sure that you will thrive in that market? Is there going to be adoption? So for me, the first thing would be, I would think about, okay, what are the two sides? There's the regulatory side and there's the customer side. I would think about what are some of the banks that we can plug into back end, right, that can help us facilitate and process. And then on the other side, who are some of the businesses that we can launch our services for specific use cases? Let's even get transactions going. And the reason why I wouldn't mention B2C again is because acquiring customer acquisition is very expensive. Right? So before you start investing in all of these things, you want to get a feel of the market. Before you start investing a lot of resources, right? So my go-to would always be find partners, launch alongside these partners for specific use cases, learn from that before you now think about investing, even in hiring team that present you in that market. All of those things will come in, but let it be a customer-led expansion. Just waking up and saying, "Oh, Uganda looks good, let's go to Uganda." So that would always be my approach.
Okay, I think it depends on several factors, right? It depends on the company, right? So after researching the country you're going to, it all depends on what the company wants to do. I think it also depends on several factors, right? Number one, speed to market. How fast does this company actually wants to go into this market? Acquiring an existing company can provide like an immediate market access, right? This is after you've done your due diligence and every other thing. Also, you might want to think of control and customization of your product, tailoring this to the market you are going into, right? So bringing your product that allows for more control, just like what Gerald said, partnering with financial technology companies already on ground, getting to know the payment landscape or whatever technological landscape that is existent in this country, right? That is another factor. Also, if you want to evade the regulatory and compliance challenge we have in Africa, right? In terms of licensing, I can speak a whole lot about that, right? But if you want to really evade that, you can as well just apply to get your license, which you might actually get maybe in like 6 months, a year, but we all know how it is. Or you might decide to acquire a license. You might just decide to just close your eye and just do this, right? Because you really need this. And this goes back to how fast do you really want to penetrate this market.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the FinTech Frontlines. For businesses that are bullish on Africa, Kora provides all the support you need to start and scale with delightful payment products for collections, payouts, and settlements. Learn more at korahq.com.